Hello everyone, I am the Weather Dude, welcome back, and today we're going to be taking another look at that major New Year's winter storm that we have on our hands, and also kind of like a New Year's weather forecast to show you guys what you can expect. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe because it does help the channel grow, and let's get started here. So looking at how this is, coming together and, what is it going to look like for the near future. So here we have we're going to look at some 500 millibar height anomalies and some precip anomalies here to start us off from some of the ensemble models. So you can see, right, on the GEFS, you can see how we have sort of troughing going on, especially in the western part of the United States and in the middle of the country. So that's where our snow is going to set up. And this pattern does last through January 4th as well. But that storm, which is January 1st through 2nd, is inside of that time frame. So I just kind of wanted to show that. And of course, looking at, for the near future, similar pattern, even though we got some troughing up in the north, into Canada, that does dip down into the United States. And the lines do pretty much go down through most of the country, except for in the south where it has some of those more orangish colors. All right, if we look at the precip anomalies, a lot of the ensemble models are going to point towards, like the Tennessee Valley to the Mid-Atlantic, seeing a lot of above average precip, especially through January 5th, going through all the way through the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. All right, and the Northeast and the Eastern Seaboard still has an above average precip. Now, could that be coupled with some cooler air to make some snow? We'll see. But we're going to be focusing on the central United States today. I just wanted to show you, again, GEPS kind of shows it even more, right? Even more troughing, even more, cold air, I guess you could say, in place because of those lines curving downward. All right, here we have the precip anomaly for that same model, which is the GEPS instead of the GEFS. And you can see precip still above average for the East Coast, even parts of the Tennessee Valley as well. And that goes all the way through the 9th and even the 10th. Now, that is a 7-day average, by the way. All right, here we have the CFS. This is, again, now through January 5th, so our storm does sit inside of this time frame because it's going to be lasting, especially for the areas in the central U.S. It's going to see snow. Probably be around between New Year's Eve and January 2nd, maybe the 3rd at latest, but it should be gone by then. And you can see, look at the dark blues, look at all the troughing that we have. It's going to be coming in here. We kind of have like a little low run here, right? So we got the, the warm flow on this side, cold flow on this side. This isn't necessarily a temperature map, but you can see the dip in the jet stream near Hawaii. They'll be getting some precip rising up here, then kind of sort of troughing here, and then ridging back up there. It's a very interesting troughing and ridging pattern that we're going to see. And again, through January 5th, again, every single the GEFS, the GEPS, and the CFS all point towards this, not really the central U.S., but more the Ohio Valley, Tennessee Valley, Mid-Atlantic, getting some above average precip, as well as the western United States. But again, the storm is going to be happening in the central U.S., so let's get to that. All right, so GFS, 12Z runs coming in as I'm recording here, but it is going out far enough to where we can still, capture the storm inside of the 12Z run, even though it doesn't go all the way to 384 hours yet. We'll still be able to see the storm, and that's what matters. That's what we're focusing on today. So you can see this low, as some of the low pressures do, it gets caught in the Rockies, right? It comes into the northwest or maybe even the southwest, kind of gets caught in the Rockies, dumps some snow, right? We're seeing snow in the Rockies today, even getting down to some of the mountains in Arizona and New Mexico. So for you people in the southwest, you can enjoy some snow in those in the tops of the mountains there. Then it's going to slowly leave the Rockies, all right? As some of them just eject out of there. And I just want to say that this storm is going to leave a massive temperature contrast. For where I am, on Sunday, the high temperature is going to be 60, almost 60, and the low temperature is going to be 24. So this is going to come in, cold air is going to come in so fast behind the system, and I'll show you why in the setup here. This is going to lead to flash freezes in some spots. Some areas could quickly go over to snow last minute if the precip, if the moisture still hangs around and cold air comes in quick enough, some areas could change to snow. Even if you were just 60 degrees, you could see some snow. All right, now I did have one viewer actually recently asking me about Southwest Missouri for New Year's, January 1 to 3rd, I believe they asked. So again, kind of like that same deal. We could start out as rain, maybe going over to snow, but I feel like some of the models are keeping that a bit further north. But for Southwest Missouri, for the person that was wondering, you could see a little change to sleep, but this is just a GFS. We're going to go over some more models as well. But you can see that area of heavy snow, again, as I always like to say for the past couple years, right? The snow could be heavier, closer to the rain snow line because there's still enough cold air for it to snow, and also there's more moisture near that rain snow line. And you can see that pocket of heavier snow moves through Chicago, through Gary, Indiana, eventually through Ann Arbor, Michigan, Detroit, Michigan. Then it kind of makes its way into the east eastern part of the United States. But look at the red and the blue lines, right? Look how tightly packed this is together. That means behind that system, okay, the cold air is going to come rushing in. And behind this system, all right, even like right now and coming up, like in the northern plains, wind chills I've seen negative 20s, 30s, even 40s. Some of the wind chill advisories and warnings are pointing towards closer to negative 50 for the wind chills. All right, and of course, you got the low right here. That's going to be kicking in the cold air behind it with the front. But not only those two, but also high pressure is going to be sitting in the Rockies. That's just going to keep the cold air cranking through the central United States. You guys are really going to feel it there. Don't get me wrong, the East Coast, you're going to feel it too. All right, because that high pressure is going to sort of follow suit, right? High pressure, clockwise flow like this. Low pressure, counterclockwise flow like that. So I wouldn't doubt if some places in the Appalachians, like West Virginia, Tennessee, North Carolina, could change to snow before all is said and done here. And in the past GFS run, they had like the whole East Coast going over to snow for a little bit. Eastern PA, all right, actually if we do zoom in a little bit, I will zoom in a little bit. If you're looking at Eastern PA, right, you can still see some snow there, and even through central Jersey, Massachusetts, Connecticut could go over to some snow here. All right, but again, that depends if the cold air and the moisture, do line up perfectly. Then the storm kind of just makes its way on out of here. So 123 hours out here. So let's go over here. Snowfall totals, according to the GFS model, they have been trending a bit further south. Looks like they're kind of like lining up with sort of what the European model is saying. So here we have in these purples, that's like 6 inches plus. Pretty much goes from about Detroit's in about 4 or 5, but like for Ann Arbor, for Gary, Indiana, for Chicago, Des Moines probably like a couple or a few inches or so. Northern Missouri could see around 9 or 10 inches of snow, right? Like 10 inches for Missouri here, 11 in some spots. So some pretty heavy snow, and even 3 to 6 for the Appalachians and the Smokies, and even some snow that looks like for the Mid-Atlantic states too, Pennsylvania, Delaware, and Jersey. All right, could even see like an inch or two. All right, and even if that's not, that could be what falls from the sky. Of course, what sticks obviously depends on the temperatures at the surface. All right, moving on here, we have the so this is the GFS model. So that's assuming a 10-to-1 ratio, meaning that 10 inches of liquid is equivalent to 1 inch of snow. That's how those snow totals are calculated. Now, what the Kucher ratio does, and I've been looking at this a lot recently, right? Because the Kucher ratio, if you look at the description here, it also does tell you that it kind of assumes a more accurate snow or more accurate water to snow ratio. So, like for example, if 15 inches of rain, goes over to 1 inch of snow, then obviously that more moisture that's needed. So this kind of assumes a better ratio and makes it more accurate. So if we look at that, right, now you see, now we get the more accurate water to snow ratio. Now we're seeing areas that can see over a foot, maybe for southern Iowa, for western Illinois, for northern Missouri, even Kansas, Nebraska, right? Chicago and Ann Arbor are maybe up to like 10 inches now. Detroit maybe closer to 6. Appalachian and Smoky Mountains pretty much looking the same. Maybe a little less snow for those mid-Atlantic states, right? Even the Northeast can still see a few inches of snow, assuming the more quote-unquote accurate water to snow ratio, right? Or excuse me, a snow to liquid ratio. So with that said, right, let's look now at the European model. So European model, we're still in the 0Z at the time I'm recording this here. So here comes the low out of the Rockies, right? And you can see, I mean, it's now the 540 line doesn't mean automatically you're going to get snow. It's that general 540 line, which is this blue one right here, that kind of at this frame kind of runs like this. Kind of assumes like, north of that it's cold enough, it's conducive somewhat for snow, and in south it's not. Right in the middle is where you can see that sleet and ice. Here comes a low out of the Rockies, all right? You got tightly packed red lines here. I know it's hard to see because of the gradients. But then you got tightly packed blue lines to the north. So it's going to be a really, all track dependent with this, all right? And for southwest Missouri, like that viewer was asking, maybe some sleet on the backside. Not as much as what they were showing yesterday, though. That's why, you always got to stay tuned for the updates because the models do change their minds. But Iowa, Missouri, northern Illinois, Chicago, it's going to be a close call for you. But I still think you have a good bet to get some snow there. But again, look at the low, look at the front. Like the cold air is going to come rushing in. I may even have, I'm sure there'll be enough time. I'll be able to show some temperature graphics to show, how quickly those temperatures could change. And I mean, we're talking in a span of maybe not even 24 hours. Like you could start off the day or in the middle of the day being like around 60, you could wake up, 12 hours later. All right, like in the middle of the day, let's say 12, you wake up at around, let's say, okay, we'll do 5, right? That's still like 17 hours or so. You're going to be waking up, it's going to be like 40 degrees colder. That's like a 2 to 3 degree drop every single hour. So that's pretty impressive. And the Euro shows a much stronger high pressure, all right, in the Rockies, much stronger, which means that wind flow is really going to be kicking, all right, on the east side of that. Then the low is going to be really strong. So the counterclockwise flow and even another low to the north here, maybe throwing some more cold air down. But these two systems right here, this low and this high, are really going to influence that wind flow and that and those temperatures. How cold do they really get? Now the Euro, sadly, we can only look at the 10-to-1 ratio. We can't see the Kuchera, quote-unquote, more accurate one. But the 10-to-1 is still a decently good ratio. And according to that, right around Chicago, okay, pretty much same areas. Gary and Chicago a little less. It's a bit further north in the GFS, but the same general areas, pretty much from Nebraska and Kansas over to Michigan. Looking at a good, 6 to 10 inches of snow or so. The Northeast could even see a few inches of snow there as well. Now, looking at the Canadian model, right? Here we go with the Canadian model. So, again, there's the low, kind of like waiting. Oh, sorry about that. Don't want to pull up the soundings. Here comes the low dropping out of the Rockies, meets up a little piece of moisture from the south, and they converge in this zone right here as you're about to see 3, 2, 1, boom. Then it kind of ejects itself out of the Rockies, right? And again, this time the precipit's a little bit further south. Now, it is the Canadian model. I'm not going to say it has a cold bias. It can. I think it kind of does depend because they don't always do. But that sleet nice a bit further south, right? So now you can see parts of southwest Missouri getting in that sleet for real there. And some heavier snow in northern Kansas, northern Missouri, northern Chicago. And this is right on New Year's Day. That's why I'm calling this the New Year's winter storm. Obviously not a lie. I mean, it's on New Year's and lasting into the second as well. So maybe post New Year's travel. I think New Year's Eve for most areas should be okay. Except for if you're in the Rockies, of course. But in terms of like areas, like this is what it's looking like here by the early morning on New Year's Eve. Get to where you're going for New Year's Eve. Or sorry, this is New Year's Day. Get to where you're going for New Year's Eve. And that way, New Year's Day, you don't have to worry about traveling. Obviously, it can't hurt to leave a day or two earlier. Maybe leave on the 30th or the 31st to get where you're going. I know a lot of people are traveling. All right. And again, New Year's Day is going to be like the quote-unquote hectic day with all the precip. And then by the time the early morning on the 2nd, areas further east, like the Ohio Valley, could even get some snow out of this. All right, and then maybe Chicago, some lingering snow still. We'll see. Maybe we get a little bit of lake effect possibly. All right. As you can see, the snow is kind of like off to the east here, but we do see some bands forming off of Lake Michigan. Obviously, with that intense northwest flow, I wouldn't doubt some lake effect. But of course, the lakes are starting to cool down a little bit because we need those lakes to be warm with cold wind blowing over them to make that lake effect snow. All right, but again, you can see there's the high pressure, very strong, like what the Euro was saying, very strong high. It's going to be kicking those winds all the way down. Then we're going to see 540 lines all the way down to Texas, Louisiana, southern Texas at that, almost reaching the Gulf Coast. So we're going to be taking a look at those temperature graphs in a bit. As soon as we get over the snow map for the Canadian model, also known as GTPS, we'll go over the temperature map. So this is through the next 10 days. I'm actually going to wind it back here to when the New Year's snow event is over. They have it a bit further south. It's a more concentrated area, still closer to 12 inches according to this model, for places in central Illinois. Obviously, as time goes on, maybe as we get towards the 30th and 31st, we'll be able to look at some more models, maybe like the NAM and some other more long-range models, because this is still over 5 days out, so we can only really look at the GFS, Euro, Canadian models like that. But a thin layer, but still some 6 to 10 inches here, and they still have Chicago in about 6 inches, more accurately. 3 inches or so, 3 to 4 for Detroit, but look at like northern central Indiana and northern Ohio around Cleveland. You guys would like this a lot better. 4 to 6 inches going all the way up into Buffalo as well. And then even some snow lingering for the mid-Atlantic. Again, kind of like what the GFS was saying. If cold air rushes in quick enough while the moisture is still lingering behind, we'll see. Eastern Seaboard, you may be up for a surprise. All right? Because on Monday, where we were, the high temperature was supposed to be 40 with rain possibly mixing with snow for a bit. What ended up happening? Snow was coming down, pretty heavily, and it actually stuck a little coating to an inch, maybe around ½ inch, but it came down heavy. Even though temperatures were still 37, 35, it still stuck. So Mother Nature can give you quite a surprise, all right? And assuming that Kuchera ratio, the more accurate ratio, actually dumping out more, so maybe we see a higher liquid to snow ratio here. So maybe we can squeeze out, more snow with the moisture that we have. That's the hope here, because that's what it means. If this is high, if this if the Kuchera map is showing higher totals than the 10-to-1 map, that's what that could mean. So this is the more accurate ratio, so who knows? Maybe our first surprise. And Smoky Mountains could even see a couple inches. Maybe down in Kentucky, sadly with those tornadoes getting to clean up there, maybe see a little decorative snow. Hopefully to cheer you guys up a little bit. Recovery is, going along solid there, but they're having some, interruptions with the weather recently. Some more rain expected there, but who knows? Maybe some snow on top of that. And Chicago, 6 to 8 inches for you guys up there. All right, let's move on to the temperature maps really quick. So here we have the GFS model here real quick to get into temperature maps. I'm also going to show you the wind chill maps to show you what it's really going to feel like. But of course, when you're talking about like what precipitation you're going to see, you can't rely on the wind chill because that's just how it feels to your skin. For precipitation, you still need to rely on the actual air temperature. So let's look at that first, right? So you're waking up, it's about 5 a.m. on New Year's. Maybe you're staying up, who knows? But 5 a.m. on New Year's, and you can see this is actual temperatures according to the GFS, by the way. This isn't wind chills yet. Negative 25, negative 30 up there into the north. But on that quarter of snow, right? I mean, it's already single digits, 20s. Anywhere pretty much north of this blue line is below freezing. That's that freezing line right there. All right. Then obviously, as you go through the day, this is about 11 a.m., maybe it does warm up a little bit. All right. But if we go back to, let's see where the GFS was here. I think it was around, yeah, here it is. All right, so here's the GFS to show you like where the storm was in placement here. So here's the low, all right, around Saturday afternoon, all right, so hour 78. Let me actually move these over here. So hour 78 here, all right, the low is pretty much off to the east, sort of around Kentucky, Tennessee area, right? So the low is over here. So precipitation is starting to pull away, and as it does, temperature is going to go to the single digits here, okay? And this is on New Year's. Remember, these same areas, right, New Year's afternoon are going to be in the 50s and 60s. Well, New Year's Eve afternoon, and then getting into New Year's in the afternoon on the day later, it's going to be in the single digits in some spots. In those same areas that are getting the snow. And even further south in Oklahoma in the 20s, like it's going to be absolutely crazy, okay? Flash freezes for even areas that get rain, it could actually freeze over. Even if you did see rain the entire time, below zero, like -7, the actual temperature there for Nebraska. Then the cold air will move into the east, pushing pushing down into the south below freezing here. All right. Then it starts to move even further to the south. This is around 5 a.m. in the morning, pretty much the coldest time in the morning, getting down to the Gulf Coast in some spots around Mobile, Biloxi. Then it moves into the eastern seaboard, all right, with more cold air below freezing, of course, and even in northern New England. Now, the wind chill, that's a whole nother story, all right? Because looking at the wind chills, this is 2 p.m. in the afternoon, -40 wind chills in North Dakota. This is the type, and even -50 plus or -50 or lower in Canada. This is the type of air anywhere in those pinks and purples. This is the type of air that you can just go out, throw a hot boiling pot of water, and just, watch the beautiful science experiment. But look at the wind chills. This is 11 o'clock, not even the coldest part of the morning, on Sunday morning, 11 a.m. or so, around 10-ish a.m. Look at this, even down to the coast, and even a bit further than that, even over the water, all right, that freezing line goes. So like Southwest Louisiana, Lake Charles, maybe upper teens, low 20s for wind chills. This is going to be absolutely crazy. All right, negative teens, negative 20s in a place like Iowa. Even in the east seaboard, right? Look at Monday morning, right? We're talking about single digits, even close, and teens through the eastern seaboard coastline, all right? Even down in the northern Florida, even central Florida getting into the 30s here. So this is going to be very crazy cold air. Get ready for it, because even if the ground is wet, make sure the ground is not wet. If you can control it, like be sure to make sure it's dry, because it will, freeze for most of you guys. Millions and millions, maybe even almost hundreds of millions of you will be below freezing and quick. So thank you guys for watching. I'll be continuing to give updates on this New Year's winter storm, see if there's any last minute changes. Thank you guys for watching. I am the Weather Dude, signing off. Till next time, I'll catch you guys in the next video.